Welcome to another video. If you're new here, my name is Joshua Farris and I'm the owner of Pharris Plus. And in this video, we're diving into something super crucial. How to stop hustling and start thinking and acting like a CEO. Look, I get it. I know that the hustle is where it all begins. Grinding to get our business off the ground, but we cannot stay in grind mode forever. Hustling is just the vehicle to get us to a place of freedom, but we need to evolve into CEOs who are in control, strategic, and intentional about growing our business. Today, we'll break down how to make that transformation happen. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's Josh here, and we have Sydney here also. And today, what we're going to be talking about is how to stop hustling and start thinking and acting like a CEO. I get it. We all have to start our business out of that hustling stage. You got to get it out the mud. You got to build momentum. It's not easy. It takes a lot of effort, but let me tell you, you cannot get stuck there. You cannot, that cannot be the end all be all, because we don't hustle just to hustle, right? The hustle is the vehicle for us to build our business. Hustling is the vehicle for that freedom, but we can't get addicted to the hustle. Nobody. That's not the end all be all. We want to be CEOs who are cool, calm, and collected, and know exactly what we put in our business and the outputs of what's going to come from that. So we want to be in control as a CEO. And so what we want to do today is break down how we do that, some qualities and mindset things that we think about on how to be a CEO. So we're going to break that down for you. And I have Sydney here. I want to introduce you guys to Sydney. She is our operations manager as well as my executive assistant. And so when it comes down to how to operate like a CEO and making sure your calendars and getting things done and that you're able to be efficient, she knows all about that, right? So we've done extensive training on how to be productive, how to leverage systems, and making sure that not just one department, not just your marketing is done well, but everything across the board, from your marketing to your sales to your client relations to your production, across the board, you got to be able to know how every part of the puzzle works as a CEO. And since we work so closely together, I thought it'd be great that she hop on and also share what she's had to do and just, things that she does in order to basically be my second brain, to think like I think, to be a couple steps ahead of me. Right. And so, introduce yourself, Sydney.
Hi, you guys. I'm basically the one sending you guys emails every week and engaging in Facebook. If you have questions, they come to me first. So I've talked to all of you people before, which is amazing. So yeah, basically I am Josh's second brain.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Exactly. Okay. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. When it comes down to when you have to make that transition from no longer being a hustler to a CEO, the first thing that it comes down to is your mindset. First of all, you got to start thinking like a CEO, and we're going to help you do that today. And then second of all, you have to be able to take control of your time. It all starts with your time. The only way we can grow our business is through two ways: time and money. And if we're just starting our business, we usually don't have a lot of money. And so we want to help you get control of your time in order and help you start thinking like a CEO, so you can start getting results like a CEO and see your business multiply and grow exponentially, right? So you guys know I am huge when it comes down to your purpose, knowing your why, understanding why you're hustling in the first place. And that always comes down to our first point. As a CEO, every morning, you want to be able to renew your mind. You want to be able to start your day off with a win, start your day off with the right mindset. You got to be able to go and battle each day knowing that you're fighting from victory, right? So whatever that is, that's the exact reason why I gave you guys the book, right? Called for a Purpose. My goal for you is to read that book every morning and understand the purpose that God has put inside of you in order to go out there and fight for your freedom, which is how we get that is through our business. And so every morning you want to be able to renew your mind, have yourself a morning routine that starts your day off right, whether that is you wake up and work out, you wake up and pray, meditate, whatever that is, you always want to be able to do three things. You want to wake up and move your body, you want to move your mind, and you want to wake up and move your spirit. And so doing those three things is a huge key, a huge factor when it comes down to starting your day like a CEO. If you go look up any huge CEOs from Elon to Zuckerberg to anybody, they have a great morning routine. And for fun, I go and I always want to know somebody's, what do you do in the morning? Because how you start your day dictates a lot about how your day is going to go. So Sydney, tell them what's number 2.
Yeah, so number 2 is optimizing your environment. Being in, I guess, the realm of business now for the last few months has really taught me about this, just because when you surround yourself with like-minded people who are goal-oriented, better than you in other areas, and just on the same track as you, it's really good. It's a good place to work in, basically. If you are surrounded with people who aren't after the same thing, or maybe are just negative constantly around you about the things that you are doing, or they give you no push. You know, there's no litmus test for you in your goals or how to move forward. It could be detrimental to how you work. So optimizing your environment in all of this is really important, because you can be hungry for growth all day long. You know, you can want to get up in the morning and do all these things. You could want to make a lot of money, have a really successful business, but the genuine desire and that push has to be nurtured, and that happens in a good environment. So what that looks like for me practically, you know, I always get into a space with natural lighting. I like to look outside. I don't like to be super enclosed because my mind needs to be clear, because, you know, Josh has a busy day. I have a busy day too. You know, when it comes to figuring out production days or scheduling, or even if we have to go on site somewhere to go visit somebody or anything like that, you know, our heads need to be clear so that we can communicate properly, do all of those things. So I get out to some natural lighting, or I go outside. I always write in different colors because it helps my mind color coordinate. I think very linear. Josh thinks in circles. So the way that I have to transfer that in my environment is by doing things that help me think rightly and clearly. So whatever way that may be for you, you may want to work at a very dim lighting, enclosed, cozy space, or very open and functional, which in whatever way works for you is what's going to be best for you.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Keeping your environment clear and playing your environment to your strengths helps, right? No need to make it harder than what it has to be. Right. So number 3, when it comes down to making that transformation from a hustler to a CEO, is you have to budget your calendar, right? Your calendar is crucial, right? I'll tell you a story. When I left my mechanical engineering job, the very next day, I knew that I had to understand, if I wanted to build a business, become more than a freelancer, or, you know, more than a weekend warrior, I had to be in control of my time. Yeah. And so what I did was I tracked every minute of my life for a full year. I'll repeat that. I tracked every minute of my life for a full year, from times when I was using the bathroom, to going to church, to driving, to thinking about what am I going to wear for the day. I knew I had to be able to take advantage of every minute. And so I needed to track how much time did it take me every day to think about what I was going to wear, you know, which led me to making a decision. Hey, wear black t-shirts, white t-shirts, have 2 pairs of shoes, wear those throughout the week, change up the jeans. You know, if you feel fancy one day, put on a different jacket. But that just saves me time, and it allows me to put that time for the business or something else more important. But either way, what you want to do is you want to budget your calendar. You want to treat your calendar, you want to treat your time just like you treat your bank account, right? Yeah. And therefore, you want to be able to go into the next day knowing what you're going to do, right? Your calendar is like a budget. It's really the fastest way to become more productive and to know where your time is going, in order to then optimize your calendar by telling it what to do, not just you being drug along by each task or each request that somebody's throwing your way, right? And at the end of the day, you know you've done this right when you have balanced your time down to 0. What you are able to do, you're able to transfer all of your task and your big goals into your working calendar and customize it by, days and weeks and really just get it all the way down to the hour. So when somebody comes to you, says, hey, can you do this or do that? And you can look at your calendar and say, I really can't with a genuine heart, or I got an hour here, or I got 30 minutes there that I can do. And so you want to really remember what isn't on your calendar doesn't get done. Doesn't get managed. What you don't track, what you don't keep up with doesn't get measured, and only what you measure, right, is gets done. And so we want to make sure that all of your tasks, everything is broken down into your calendar by the hour. You got to know where your time is going, just like you will have to know where your money is going if you want to be a successful CEO.
Yeah, and the practicals of knowing how to budget your calendar go into what we do here at Farris, which is basically plan your monthly, weekly, and your daily maps. So this is something that I had to start doing because when I first started working with Farris Photography, I was getting into this workflow of how I felt like I was doing a lot, but nothing was getting done, and I was confused. I wasn't sure, and I was, working, all my hours. And so I had to really sit down and talk with Josh and Karis and say, hey, I want to do better in this area. So how do I do this? So, after training and after putting a lot of things into practice, this is what I started doing. So basically what this looks like is we look at our month. We are filming this in the month of February. And we see the big things we have coming up. If we had a shoot scheduled, 2 months out, I'm aware that shoot is scheduled, say, on the second Friday of that month. And then say we had another shoot maybe 2 weeks later, we had some internal meetings and productions within those weeks. I'm mindful of that. And so I tackle every week when I get to that week. For me, that's what works for me. So if I know that from, say, the 16th to the 21st, this is what we have going on, what that looks like for me is there's 5 days in that week. So say a shoot falls within that week and say that it's a Friday. I am mindful that whole week of that Friday being taken up by that shoot. So the way that I spend my other 4 days is delegated to maybe our growth program, client relations, marketing, all of those things. And I delegate my days by sections. So say for you, if you're a photographer and you have a shoot one day, and then you have to spend another day editing, and then you spend maybe your Wednesdays with bookkeeping and financing if you haven't outsourced yet. You get a rest day in there, and then maybe your Monday is your planning day. Those are 5 days. And so that's what that looks like, breaking down your weekly days, or your Monday through Friday into a daily schedule. Right? Schedule? Yeah. So for me, what that looks like on Mondays, I'm doing emails and I have meetings. On Tuesdays, that's for training. On Wednesdays, that's for one of our one-off clients. And then Thursdays, we have our office hours. And then Fridays, we have internal production days. So those are all broken up on those days. And because I have delegated those days to a certain section part of our business, they get done that day. And so I don't move outside of those days, which we'll kind of get to later in this video about not context switching. But planning out your weekly maps and then honing in on the day, then being able to hone in on the hour is really helpful. And I actually use an amazing calendar, which I will link for you guys. And I will upload a photo to Facebook so that you see how I can break that down. But that's very helpful so that you have a clear path to walk down with your workflow within your day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what you just broke down was basically how to focus, right?
Yes.
It's coming down. It's all about knowing what I should be doing at this particular moment, so we're not wasting time trying to figure it out or even think about what we should be doing at this particular moment.
Right.
If we know it, we can just get it right to work, execute, right? So, which leads to number 5, right? We want to make sure that we keep our targets top of mind. And when you're able to break down your calendar in such a way Sydney just described, it makes it really easy to know what our target is each hour of the day. Something else that we do as a team, but something you can do individually, is every day know your top 3 goals.
Yeah.
What are your top 3 goals? What are your big 3 that you have to accomplish today? And if you know that, that makes it even simpler to break down your day. You know, if my top 3 are edit this wedding, send a proposal, and call a planner, well, I'm going to call my planner, get that out the way. And if I know I need to budget 4 hours to edit the wedding, and I forgot what the other one was, but if I need 2 hours for the other task, well, then now I know how I can prioritize my day.
Right.
I know my top 3, and I'm knocking it out, right? So when you have your top 3, when you know the goal of what you're trying to accomplish, that will filter everything else out. It'll make your decision making that much easier, because guess what? Another opportunity could come by for sure, but you have to weigh it against what are my top 3, you know? And so that just makes your decision making easier, and it keeps it helps keep your brain energy, right? Because as a entrepreneur, as a CEO, as an executive, what you have to do is not waste your decision making energy. People depend on you to make really important decisions, and when it's time to make a strong decision, you need to be all the way there. And so that's number 5, how to keep targets on the top of your mind. You want to have your big 3, and you want to make sure that your day is leveraged to execute on those big 3.
Yeah. And that also is helpful for our next step, which is eliminate context switching. So, you know, we use Slack here at Pharris Photos, and it's very helpful because we have set up Geekbot in our Slack. So Josh knows every morning my top 3 for the day. You know, my top 3 for today, we're filming. We had a meeting this morning, and then after this, I'm going to go do some training. And that helps me a lot too, just because if I say someone emails me about a project, but that project is due maybe in a week and a half, I can respond to that email very well, but I don't have to work on that project right now because my day's already planned out. So context switching is a really, it can be distracting, and it can kind of throw off your day if you already have it planned out, which is what I was doing before I was planning out my days. I was answering emails when they came. I was working on 3 different projects all at once, and it just felt like a lot. So eliminating those helps, especially at the end of your day, because your bandwidth is so small at the end of the day. You know, so I can respond to a really long email at the beginning of the day very thoroughly with my mind fully clear. But at the end of the day, it's probably going to take me a minute. So that also helps with budgeting your day. Like, you know, put your easier tasks that require less thought third if you're doing a big 3. Hone in on what's the hardest and most thorough first. And so when it comes to context switching, my biggest suggestion is just don't do it. Don't try to get everything all done at once. Really plan out your day with your big 3, and it will glide. It is the best way that I have found to do a lot of work within 8 to 10 hours of however long you are working.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important to make sure that you do a deep dive into that task, knock that task out, and then go to the next task instead of trying to do 3 tasks at one time. You want to make sure that you're putting all your focus and energy into that task and doing it the best way possible. So now that you've been grinding, hustling, it is really important. And I will just put a full disclaimer out there right now. I am not the best at this, but when I do it, I do it to the max. And that is taking a rest day.
That's true.
You need to take a rest day each week. And I will say, you know, you hear a lot about balance this, balance that. I don't necessarily agree that there's a such thing as balance, you know. But there are seasons, you know. There are times when you should take a break, and when you need to be wise enough to know I need a break, right? And so we totally get that it is a lot of work to build a business. It is a lot of work to be great. It is a lot of work to, you know, follow your passion and pursue your purpose. And so, but with that, you know, it's mandatory to take a break. And so as a CEO, if you want to be the best for your people, if you want to be the best for your team, if you want to be the best person for yourself, you owe it to yourself to take a break, to rejuvenate, to get energy so you can keep that fire burning and not burn out, right? And so you definitely want to take a break. And Sydney helps me in this area. So I'm going to let her share her expertise in making sure that you get a break and that you find that sliver of peace and rest amidst the grind and the hustle.
Yeah. Yeah, because, within business, there's a lot that goes on within your day, phone calls, emails, all that stuff. You're giving so much of yourself every day within business, and Josh is a dad. He has 3 kids under the age of 4. And he's a husband and he's leading a lot of people every day. And you may be in that boat. You also may be by yourself, in whatever capacity it's needed. For me, I know that if Josh is having a stressful day, and we have a minute, I'm like, take a minute. We don't have to fill it. Let's just take a minute. And I have to do that even for myself. Setting aside time for me to rest is really important for my brain so that, one, I can function at work, but also just be mentally healthy. I have rest days on Saturdays. On Saturdays, I am not doing work. On Saturdays, I am not really giving much of myself into other areas, because when I take that rest day, I'm able to let my brain breathe from the week. I'm able to plan that day maybe, and just kind of gather myself. Because eventually too, if you get so cloudy in your mind, you're not going to function at the best rate that you can, or your capacity will shrink, which is never good, But also too, it doesn't require a whole lot of you doing a lot. You're a human being. And so just within work and all those things, I'd encourage you, if you're feeling burnt out, like you're running out of time, I would set aside just everything just to chill out for a minute. And what I do on those days, I go for walks, hang out with friends. I'll go to a coffee shop. I read. Taking a rest day doesn't mean that you have to veg out all day long. You can, but it's important to take one. So it's really good, and it benefits me in this job to just let my brain be healthy.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, you will burn yourself out. So yeah. I mean, but everybody has different capacities. Everybody has different limits as well. Yeah. And so you do wise by yourself of knowing when you need to do it, and then take that, right, and know that there's no shame in that. You know?
I don't.
So that's all I can really say with being honest on taking the
rest
days.
I'll say this too: his capacity is much bigger than mine. Mine is smaller. He can hustle a lot longer than I can. So if you can hustle long, but also take some time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so moving into number 8. What we want to do is manage proper expectations, right? So this is kind of goes along with taking that rest day, and that proper expectations that we're talking about is for yourself, right? Making sure that you are running your race, not comparing yourself to others who may seem further ahead, or not thinking too highly of yourself because you're looking at people who are not as far as you are. You have to be able to align your goals and pace yourself and be consistent in that pursuit of that, and not let anything else outside deter you from that, and knowing that your timing is in God's timing, right? And so really what you want to do as a CEO, going from the hustling stage to the CEO stage, you really want to focus on the process and the actions, making sure that you are executing on the fundamentals properly of documenting your time, keeping up with your KPIs, making sure that your calendar is right, and doing all of those basic things will lead to the growth that you're looking for. And when people see that growth inside of you, they will be that much more eager, that much more willing to follow you, knowing that you're doing something right. And so what you want to do is, as a CEO, you have to manage your expectations so you can remain cool, calm, and collected through the journey. You got to be able to focus on the actions, focus on your inputs, focus on executing on those fundamentals of what we just described. And that will help you when times get tough to know that you're in the place that where God has you, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Because I know I'm always trying to balance living in the future and the present. And so what helps me manage my expectations of where I should be, what am I doing, is saying, hey, first of all, am I aligned with God? Am I following my purpose to build his kingdom? Am I in alignment with him? And am I doing everything that I can at the fundamental levels, what I can control, when I wake up, how much work I'm putting in, what am I doing with my free time? If you can control those things, then I can say, well, hey, God, I'm on your team. I'm doing this for you anyway. I would love to be doing this, but hey, if this is where you want me right now, this is where I'm going to go hard and I'm going to give 100% at.
Yeah.
And so that's how you manage your expectations on the mindset side of being a CEO. You have anything to add to that, Sydney?
Yeah, a little bit. Just I feel like managing expectations in your day-to-day too also will eliminate a lot of like disappointment and discontentment within your job. You know, especially like as little or like managing your expectations on tasks as little as emails or anything like that, or projects that I have to do within the day, or, you know, anything like that. Knowing that I'm doing my best, knowing that I have given time to it and I've put in hard work, and say, you know, one time doesn't happen as good as I thought it would, but I knew that I gave it my all, I'm not disappointed, because I'm like, I know that I'm growing, but I know that eventually I will get better because I am putting in the work that I need to. So even just giving yourself that space and the grace to manage your expectations is a really good thing to do within not only just your job, but just life in general. That's really
no, and you said the great word about all of this when it comes down to expectations. And I've shared this, I live by this, but also I shared this with the team is, you know, my expectation is that we grow.
Right.
You know, we can't always determine the speed of that, but what we can determine is our focus.
Yeah.
We're focused on growth, and we're focused on doing the fundamentals right. Everything down to how we track our time, to the project, to the emails, to how we sign off, to our growth, everything. You know, we can control those things. And so our expectations, what I expect of myself, is to put in maximum effort and work for excellence. And then on top of that is making sure that, hey, are we growing? That is the status. That is the grade upon how we grade ourselves. Are we growing?
Yeah.
And so, which leads us into our next point, which is about our weekly reviews.
Yes.
And so when it comes down to your weekly review, you, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that you're taking the time to stop and review your progress, right? Because we can be growing, but how do we know if we're growing if we never stop to take a second to look back to see how far we've come?
Right.
Right. And so by doing those weekly reviews with yourself, or maybe with your team or vendors, whoever it is, that enables you to take a second to be grateful for the present. Right. I have a hard time with just living the future and always saying we got to keep going, we got to get more, we got to do this, we got to do that. But when we come back and have our team meetings on Sundays, when me and Kara sit down and talk every day, when I look at myself in the mirror, it gives me a chance to be grateful for where we are right now and see how far we've come, which then gives us more motivation to continue to want to go back out there and go further. So it's a cycle here that you're building momentum of looking and growing and being grateful and still striving and not settling to do more. So you definitely want to make sure that you are on a weekly basis at minimum, stopping to review the progress that you made through that week. And me and Sydney have sit downs weekly, and so she's going to share a little bit about what we do and how she actually goes through her own weekly review of herself and manages her own growth and progress.
Yes, so Josh and I do a weekly review every week. That's what our Mondays are basically set aside for. Mondays are meeting days. So me, him, and Karis will gather in a room and we'll talk about not only what we have for the upcoming week, but how the previous week went. So basically what that looks like, we'll talk about any big projects that we had that week, and down to my reoccurring daily tasks. And we say, how long did this take you? Is there anything that we could be doing better? What could we get rid of, basically? Or how could we systemize and optimize that time? So those are good weekly reviews within just your workflow. A good weekly review, I guess, tactic list of things that I do for myself is I have a list of questions that I like to ask myself at the end of every week after work and just after doing life in general. So some of those questions are, if I mentored someone dealing with some of the things that I am, I'd tell them to do blank. I take down, what my main struggles were that last week. What did I learn? List one decision that you could have made differently last week to move forward or handle difficulty better. Because some tasks are difficult. And so if I notice that maybe I dealt with it one way and it could be dealt with better, I do that. And so I like to rate myself too, how healthy am I emotionally, spiritually, physically, and all those things, just to track my own progress, because it's good to see that for your own personal growth. So it's very helpful for me, and Josh helps me do that.
Yeah, and so, what we kind of just broke down is how important it is to make sure you take a second to understand your growth, right?
Yeah.
Quantify your growth, right? And the only way that we can do that is by keeping track of our goals, measuring those KPIs, and really taking a second to think about, the growth that I've made since last week, the growth that I've made since last month, or I'm this much closer to my goal from here or there. Right. What does not get measured does not happen. And so we have to be able to measure our goals and our growth, and asking yourself those questions Sydney just broke down is a great way to be able to do that. And you're going to have to do that as a CEO, because when you can see your growth, or when you can feel your growth, it only gives you more confidence to continue to grow, and it gives you the confidence to see that it's possible, that you've done it before, and nobody can take that away from you. And so with just wrapping up this video, and with my closing thoughts, big idea here is you want to take control of your mindset, and you want to take control of your time if you want to transform from a hustler into a CEO. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying as a CEO you'll never have to hustle, but you don't want to live in a state of hustle. You want to hustle and leverage your effort, and use that as the vehicle to the freedom that we're all striving towards and striving for. And so if you guys have any other questions, every Thursday at 2:00 we have our office hours. If you have any questions on how to be able to make that transformation, or some ways that you can get control of your time or your productivity, don't hesitate to join us every Thursday, 2 p.m. at our Q&A office hours. We would love to see you there, love to help you out. And with that said, let's get to work.
Yes.
Peace. Look, if you're anything like me, a true hustler, I know that was probably hard to take. But if you want to go to the next level, we are going to have to start thinking and acting differently. So, I appreciate you for hanging out with us today. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more tips on leveling up your business. We've got a lot more coming your way, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.